I want to go to school, Pops, except never again, actually.
Yes, but if you were to go to school, there's only one school to go to, and that would be Deal School. And that's offered to you free, no tuition, no nothing, no commercial interruptions, and that's brought to you by Your Auto Advocate, where you can get a degree in how to work the best car deal possible. And as I like to say, if it doesn't work out for you buying a car, well, you can always become a salesman after you graduate Deal School. 50 different little courses, six quizzes, or as I like to call them, Quizlets, because they're just little quizzes. And you too will be ready to tackle buying your next car. Deal School at yourautoadvocate.com.
He's coachable, ladies and gentlemen. He is coachable.
Well, I remember once a prospective employer said, well, you're trainable. That didn't sound right to me.
That was awesome, Dad. Yeah, no, we're super proud of Deal School. Check it out. Link down below. Today's video is sponsored by us. We're proud of ourselves. So what are we talking about today, Pops?
I don't know. You told me we're talking about dealer sentiment. I don't know how I don't know how I feel, but I do know how dealers feel at the moment.
So let's give a little bit of background. We've been working on Your Auto Advocate now. If you look at our YouTube channel, our first video, I guess, came out December of 2019. So what's that?
The end of December.
Yeah, after Christmas.
Because you didn't edit it until you were on an airplane flying from Chicago to New Zealand.
Auckland, yes. Very, very cool trip. So we've only been doing Your Auto Advocate and the YouTube videos for 9 months or so now. And before then, full transparency, my dad was in a part-time capacity working for a dealer group, helping them with their customer retention efforts. And so, interestingly, right, like you're no longer in that role, and that's fine. You wanted to be retired. I then roped you into Your Auto Advocate.
Well, I didn't want to be that retired, but COVID came along, and, well, it kind of forced me to be retired when dealerships shut down back in March.
And that's kind of the point
I was a casualty.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I wanted to make, is that dealer sentiment probably, and you could speak to this, Dad, plummeted, right? Like, holy cow, the world is on fire. And now we have this most updated dealer sentiment survey. So could you speak to both? Like, what happened then, where we are now, and what you think is going to happen in the future?
Well, back in March, when dealerships were forced to close across the country and factories that produced the vehicles for the dealerships were forced to close, I think it's safe to say that most dealers pooped their pants. Okay,
what was that? What was the phrase?
They pooped their pants.
Like number two in their...
They did, yeah. They made a caca in their pants.
I feel bad. We just hired like this editing company that helps edit the videos, and like I feel so they don't watch Your Auto Advocate. They're like, who the hell are these guys, and what the are they talking about? God. So yes, most dealers back in March and April were scared. Okay, they didn't know what was going to happen to their businesses. They were basically shut down. They had to figure out different ways to sell cars, and so the dealer sentiment was not looking good for what the future was going to hold for automobile dealerships. And a positive score in dealer sentiment in this in what Cox tracks is when dealers believe when they have a score of 50 or higher, they believe it's a positive. Well, I believe the score back in March or April when they did it was like in the 20s, okay, which was like, that's fallen off a cliff. Yeah.
And who could blame dealers? I mean, they had no idea who turned their world upside down and when it was ever going to be normalized. Now, that changed quite a bit in when they did a survey from the end of July to the middle of August. And dealer sentiment's like at 58 or 59 now. So dealers feel very, very strongly that the future is, well, bright for them. But dealers are usually pretty short-sighted. and they don't factor everything into what they think, because most dealers are just convinced that tomorrow is always going to be better than today, and so the future is always going to look bright. And right now they're feeling flush because of the short inventories, both in new and used cars. Profits are soaring for dealerships. So dealerships are making more money than they had in the past, and they have lower expenses than they had in the past because they don't have as much in the way of carrying charges, and they don't have as many employees.
Let's hit on that.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, let's hit on that, right? Because back in March, you were working part-time, right? You had retired from your management career, and you were just working part-time, and you got let go, okay? And you were not the only person that got let go. A lot of people were
I was like one of 100 that day that said, "Hey, it's been really swell having you, and we appreciate everything you've done, but we don't know what the future holds, but we know you're not in it."
That happens, right? Then, without naming names or anything, but you shared with me, some dealerships set absolutely record profits back in August. I mean, just kind of ludicrous, the amount of money that they were able to make. And the gross profit per unit was just absurd. And you and I had a bit of a conversation about this. Part of that was, used car prices and new car prices, they could sell it at a high profit. The other, and I think the bigger storyline, is they have less staff. They got rid of 100 people. I'm not just picking on the one dealer group that you work for, but broadly, you had 100 people let go. I mean, we don't know for sure, but I don't think all those people have been hired back. And so you figure out how to run it leaner, you make more money.
Well, they had 100 people let go, and then they had others that they furloughed. Okay, and they brought some of the furloughed people back, but the 100 people that they let go, they didn't bring. At least in my case, they haven't asked me to come back. And do you really need customer retention for your lease and loan portfolios when you don't have the inventory to provide for those customers in the future? So I don't know, but they figured out how they could get by with less people. Because they're carrying smaller inventories, and because interest rates are as low as they are, their carrying cost for their inventories has dropped significantly. And so, they're able to make more money at greater profits, net profits, than they have been normally. So they're thinking all is great with the world. The fact that they're still short inventory pretends that, well, maybe all things won't be great with the world, as more people don't find jobs, and less people will become eligible to be buying any of the inventory that they might end up having.
Exactly, and I think that's the storyline here, is we went from this period of incredible uncertainty where dealers figured out a way to turn that into I'm going to put in
positive
quotes, in quotes, positive, right? Because a lot of people lost jobs, so it's actually a negative. But from if I own the business standpoint, I am now making more money, so I'm happy. However, to your point of being short-sighted, which I don't think is dealer-specific. I think a lot of people that own or lead a business are generally optimistic to a fault. And so the long-term picture, i.e. what happens in 2021 when airplane quote...
when the shit hits the fan...
What happens then, right? And so we see sentiment so high right now, but I think it's going to come back, just like with used car prices, it's going to be very volatile. It's going to go up, and it's going to go down. It's going to go up, and it's going to go down.
Yes, because the major concern for dealers today is not COVID, as it was back in March and April when they did the survey for sentiment. Today, it's the dearth of inventory. There are huge shortages of new and used car inventory. But at a certain point, when plants are operating at 100% again, inventory will get itself sorted out, and there will be ample inventory again. And once that happens, if there aren't enough shoppers and buyers to go around to take advantage or to look at all that inventory, sentiment's going to go back in the toilet again, because now how do we get people through the door, or where do we find customers? Right now, their big problem is, where do we source pre-owned cars? And in the future, it might be, where do we source customers for all these pre-owned cars we have?
And you know, it'll be funny, not funny, but fun for us to do when that inevitably happens. We'll do videos about when you were in the industry during the Great Recession. You know, we can talk about what the heck does it look like when you're in a recession and you're still trying to sell cars. I mean, you have firsthand experience of that. And that'll be very interesting. I mean, actually, if you are interested in that, let us know down below. We can do some story time with Ray, story time with Dad. You know, what the heck was it like having to uproot your family, move cross country? I mean, like, it was not pretty. So we could definitely dive into that, because knock on wood, it doesn't happen, but it seems kind of inevitable that there's going to be some sort of hardship that's felt across the board here soon enough.
Only because most economists and even the Fed is saying that, you know, we're 2 to 3 years away from things getting back economically to maybe where we had been prior to COVID-19. So, you know, a lot can happen in 2 to 3 years, but a lot of it isn't necessarily going to be good. You know, there's some tough periods that we're going to have to weather until we get back to that.
You know, I could move back in with you in 2 to 3 years. Who knows?
You could, but I think I'm going to change the locks. A commenter wanted to know why we're living apart, and I suggested, well, you know, you were smart enough to spend the summer with me because I live at the Jersey Shore. I didn't raise a fool, but there came a time when, you know, we had to face the reality of it's a 1-bedroom condo, and yeah, you're welcome back anytime, just not for long periods.
And don't worry, I've already been thinking through planning out a trip to come up, getting a ton of content filmed in about a week's time, and we'll piece it together. But for today, Dad, I appreciate your time on this topic. I found it very interesting, so thank you.
Yeah, it's always fun. I love chatting with you.
You know what? I do too. Let's keep it up.
Well, okay, let's do it again sometime soon. I don't know, another 10 or 15 minutes.
I love you, Dad. Talk to you soon.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.